What's up, guys? Welcome back to I never know the episode, the sixth episode of season 2. We are 5. I was split the difference. It's episode 5. We're honored to have Bob and Rocco come out, be able to interview these two guys today. I'm excited because we get to learn a ton from Bob, but also somebody who directly has been influenced over an amount of time from Bob. Usually we're interviewing somebody who's speaking very highly of their mentor. But from what I've understand in the little bit of time I've spent around you guys, I now have somebody who's been around you and learned from you, and the positive things that people typically say about their mentors, you can hear firsthand, which is always kind of fun, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically when we start out, we just ask people, what do you like doing? What got you into making? Just get your story out there, I guess, of what got you into the making world.
Well, I guess for me, just like a lot of people, Forged and Fire and Alex Steele on YouTube,
Okay.
And decided one day just to build a forge and go from there.
Cool. Did you build it like a Amazon pack, or did you build it all yourself?
No, I built it from scratch myself.
Cool. What was it made out of?
Stainless steel and plumbing parts for the burners.
Okay. We just had Ed Soul on, who said that he tried to do that and set his whole lawn on fire. So hopefully,
no, it's all gone. It's all gone well now. It's evolved into a PID controlled forge.
Oh, cool.
So it works really well.
You have a little bit of a background in mechanical stuff, right? That's what you do for a day job.
They call me a boiler maker, but I'm pipe fitter, welder, maintenance guy to power plant is what I do.
Cool. Our guidelines for how we weld our presses fall under hydraulic presses and boilers. So,
right. Okay.
So all of the statutes that you know from welding have applied to us at one way or another.
It's a little bit to keep track of, isn't it?
Yeah. Was it AWS 14.1.6 or something like that?
See, I'm not in charge of that part. I just do it.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not a welder, so I constantly have to pull the book out and read it.
Right.
So I should know it by heart because I'm constantly reading it.
Right.
But cool. Rocco, what got you into making?
That was a good friend of mine, his father, Tree Man Knives, Jim Bering. I grew up with them, and just offered me a position to help him out. So I got in there, and it turned into doing leather work.
Okay.
So that's typically what I'm working on, is running a leather shop for them. And it just kind of snowballed. He gave me opportunity to make, and just kept going with it. So
is that what you do mostly, is the just leather work, or?
I got my own knives that I do, but it's a side hobby thing.
Okay.
But yeah, full time I just sew leather all day.
Awesome.
Help out at his shop.
So you work. You said you work for Tree Man Knives.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a full time gig, and then in your part time you make knives.
Yeah, on my side, it's like they give me the full use of the shop. Thankfully I got a place to work, and I learned a lot from them, and I just kind of. They're my inspiration, and, I just get to play around in there on my own time, so
cool.
Pretty good deal.
He always does. He never tells us that he's going to pull this up, but he'll pull up people's works.
Oh, there you go. Hey, there's us, Bob.
There we are.
Cool. So you guys are based out of Michigan, right? Probably same area-ish of Michigan?
It's half an hour of each other.
Okay, cool. Right outside of Detroit?
About an hour north.
Okay. How did you guys get linked up? How'd you guys find each other?
Instagram.
And Bob's hammering.
Oh,
his
okay.
house there.
Yeah, try to build a little community with the local makers and stuff, and he accepted the invite and showed up.
Yeah. Cool. That's how I found out about you. Was maybe it was before I worked here. I followed Eric, and he had posted something about you, and I went and looked, and I was like, oh, man, it's really cool. And then I've seen the hammer ends. I've seen obviously the knife making that you do, and you do a lot of just raw Damascus too, right?
That's correct. That's really, I really enjoy making the Damascus.
So it's less about the knives for you and more about the Damascus.
Yeah, I made a billet before I made a knife.
Okay. So what about Damascus kind of gets your blood flowing?
The welding part of it, just the challenge of it. I didn't realize that's something somebody can do in their garage.
Yeah.
The
first time that I ever did any kind of forge welding, we did H13 into the edge of an axe by hand. And I will never, because of that, I think is why when it comes to forge welding, I'm always like, oh man, this is going to be so hard. And then you get in we've got Logan and David who, they think about it and it's already done.
Right.
And they just make it sound so simple. But like you said, the challenge of it and the idea
Right.
of just doing it in your garage, it is very, there's kind of satisfaction at the end of the day when you're frustrated a lot, but you figure it out.
And I think you guys will appreciate it. My first billet was 7 layers by hand. Then I decided I'm gonna have to build a press.
Yeah. So you have a home built press.
Yeah.
Walk me through the process. I don't think we've had somebody explain building a hydraulic press on their own. Walk me through the process of what that was like for you, and what did you have to learn? What did you have to figure out, and what was a lot easier, I guess, than you thought it might be?
I don't think that, with my background, any of it is particularly difficult. My first press, I used scrap material, and obviously the I-beam wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
But after that, I was able to, build it out of 1-inch plate, and that's been a lot better. But I enjoyed the thinking part, laying it out. I drew it all out in soapstone on the garage floor first, so it went pretty well, actually.
Okay. How many did you build? Like oversized, or did you go like 150 tons? Or
No, I went
just stay pretty
25
small?
ton.
25.
Yeah.
I keep finding the more people I talk to, that's kind of the sweet spot of. That's one of our top sellers. It's between the 25 and the 12. The 12 is because it's easy. The 25 is more the C-frame that we sell. But when I talk to people about their home builds, it's almost always 25. Do you think there's a reason for that, or?
Well, I think that's about the biggest you're probably going to run with a 5 horsepower motor.
That's fair.
So I think that's where you have to start, is your power.
Okay, so that limited kind of 220 single phase.
Right.
Okay, I don't come from this. There's your press. Beautiful.
Well, beautiful, and I guess in a way, industrial maybe.
Me and David at the very end of our podcast got into this conversation of art, and people are creative in different ways, and he has this weird thought process of how people are creative, and I'm creative through functionality. And I think that's like a press like that to me is like that's functional. You didn't have to put a design or creativity.
Well, I didn't know
to
if you noticed. So it's built to set on that table. Mm-hmm. And then I also built that stainless tank on the back. My 5-gallon tank was to bolt to the I-beam. So that's why that's that size to save space in my garage.
Okay.
So that's why the reservoir tank is where it's at, and the size it fits there.
Yeah, this is, to me, like, this is beauty because...
And that was the original frame. You can see where I have the turnbuckle trying to keep it from flexing, coming out as a banana. But actually, that's how you mentioned Eric. That's how I got to know Eric. Him and Nico came up, and I gave that original frame to Eric because I figured it might be okay for like a 16-ton.
Sure, yeah.
Something smaller, but...
His press, the last time I talked to him, I believe he told me that he was on the phone with Nate and Andy, just like, hey, how'd you do this? And they were... Oh, it's real easy. Do this. They genuinely didn't have the time to make another press because they were so backed up at the time that they told him, hey, man, just make your own press.
Right.
And if I'm wrong, Eric, I apologize.
Well,
I
he
could be
found
very
some
wrong,
big,
but-
like 150-ton press somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Detroit industrial, like in automotive shop press or whatever. Big 4-post.
We've got a couple of those laying around.
Yeah, it looks very familiar to that.
Yeah.
Okay. I've not seen. I think he's shown me a picture one time, but it was at the Hammer Inn where if I was in a spot for 30 seconds, I felt like something was going to go wrong. So I was kind of moving and catching up all day.
But so like mine, like everything is purpose built.
Yeah.
It's right now it's a 2-car. We're moving, but since 17, it's been a 2-car garage, and we both park in it still. So.
Oh, okay.
So that was part of the deal. I told her you won't have to park outside and scrape snow.
Okay.
So we'll make it work.
And it never got to did it ever get to a point where you had to park outside?
No, I don't like to do that either. So everything's on wheels and rolls back. And
well, it's kind of important being up there. You guys get a lot more snow.
yeah,
We get it every like 3 or 4 years. We'll get close to the amount of snow that you guys get up there. So,
right.
Yeah, the functionality of what you do, I think, is one of the things that has drawn me into you as a maker. Is even with your knives. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. I'm not a knife maker. I don't enjoy the knife making process because so much of it is so detail oriented, and it impacts the function overall. But to me, if a knife cuts, it cuts. It's a knife.
Right.
And a lot of what I've seen from you has been very function driven, and it feels like you don't do a lot of crazy flair to it. But you're incredibly precise with what you're doing, and everything fits up the exact way that it should. And is there a particular reason? Is that kind of how you're built as well, where everything has a function, and if it doesn't do its function, it's scrap?
Yeah, I don't have that artistic flair to it. It's more like you said, function, and clean lines and just what I like,
Yeah, like a good outline to me is just as good as like a mosaic Damascus, or
Right.
like a clean handle that fits up without glue. And
Right.
you see all I've got a ton of friends that make those kind of knives as well, but that's just as impressive to me as a multi-layer Damascus or some sort of shape that hasn't been made since the 1600s.
Right. And I also enjoyed the steel part of it, making the steel, because then I get to see my steel, and guys like Rocco has used my steel, and Edward Knives, he makes folders, he's used my steel. So getting to see it in different people
Yeah.
work that I wouldn't have never thought of, that's pretty rewarding also.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite knife or a favorite thing that's come out of your steel?
Well, I think one of my favorites is when Rocco came to the hammer and I handed him a piece of mosaic and he hammered it out, and he ended up getting him blade with that one. So that was fun.
In one hammer in?
He hammered it out, the shape profile at the hammer in, and then took it and finished it. And we took it to Blade Show and got it photographed, and
Okay.
he ended up in Blade Magazine with it. So that was fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you did end up. That was this year, right? Or was it last year? It was last year.
Yeah.
Evan, can you pull that? Are you working on it?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. Yeah, so you and I aren't very well acquainted. We've talked a couple times.
Yeah.
But I do remember seeing that you made it into Blade. How did that come about?
I just took the knife because it was I call it a collaboration with Bob. First knife I had photographed professionally by Sharp, by Coop, and just took a picture. Then I opened up Blade magazine one night, and it's like, what the?
So they didn't
All
even
right.
call you and tell you or
No,
anything?
it was just in there's like an article they do, what's hot, or what, I don't know what it's called, but it's like 8 or 10 knives of, they just pop it up there, a little blurb about what it is. And it was just, that's what I was doing, literally like just flipping through, like, oh, look at that, and I was pretty excited to see it. And just because it was like the first thing I did with Bob, the day I met him, I walked in there, he's like, here, make something. I was like, I don't know. We'll see what we can do here.
It's always kind of amazing to me how easy it is to, you talk to people all the time. Well, if I could get into this, if I could get this opportunity. We had Jeff on the show recently from Warriors Way. I've been so inspired by his kind of, the way he approaches things is the worst they can say is no,
Right.
And it's kind of unveiled to me in the past few months that I've known him is how easy it is to get into things. And I think a lot of it is just people saying like, oh, I can't achieve this, or I can't do this, or I make these knives and say Neil Kamamara, like he's so much better than me and all this. But you just made a really cool knife and it ended up in a magazine.
Just pure luck.
Yeah.
It's lucky. I didn't expect it. And honestly, when I seen it, I was like, I don't know if that deserves to be there, but I mean, it was cool to see it.
I actually had the same thing with Coop's wife. I had a knife that the first one I had photographed a few years ago. And I said to her, listen, I'm not, is this even good enough to take a picture of? Because I wasn't sure about it. And she thought I was being sarcastic, And that one actually ended up in Blade too. So I was very happy with that.
So you've had your knives or a knife in Blade, right? Okay.
Yeah. That was a few years ago, but it was like, I couldn't even believe that because the handle wasn't very good. It was kind of blocky and stuff. But
do you think that, to me, this looks...
That was
that the one that was in
Nova
Blade?
Vachon?
That was Nova Vachon.
Oh, okay.
That was I made the steel for that knife too.
Okay. Do you, so in those knives, when you see them in Blade, do you pick out the imperfections on the picture, or do you know in your head, like, I made this knife, I know where the imperfections are?
I see every flaw. I mean, it never looks as good to me as anybody else,
Right. I think, and that's going to be anybody that makes anything,
right,
because they spent so much time, even if it is like, it's hidden, you can't see it. You spent the time to cover it up, so you still know it's there.
And all the mistakes you made along the way to actually get something finished.
Yeah, or what it was in your brain when you first started, and it ended up like this because you did something wrong.
Right.
That's the struggle I have most of the time, is if I'll be making something and I make jokes about people that make Warhammers just messed up their peen. Like, I made this Warhammer. You messed up your peen, and you want to save the scrap, right? So it's the same thing for me when I'm making something and I'll get done and that's pretty good looking, but it's not exactly what I imagined. And it's because I see every flaw around, along the way. And then Nathan, who's, obviously my boss, but also kind of my big brother in forging, he'll always come by and, oh, that looks fantastic. That's so great. And it almost feels like a big brother, like he's like the teenage kid. You hit a jump shot, that kind of idea.
Right.
So you make your own, you make your Damascus, you make your knives. Is that primarily what you do in the kind of the maker space, or is there something that you have your hook on that you don't really get to do a lot?
That's pretty much what I do. I like making my equipment too. I made my first forge and grinder and press and stuff. But I think I really enjoy the steel. I really enjoy making the steel. That's what I truly enjoy.
Cool. Rocco, what about you? What is there something that you wish you could get more time around, or is there something that kind of piques your interest?
There's a lot of stuff that I want to get my hands into. It's just finding time to do it. Like my making is my free time, and there's not a whole lot.
Okay.
Everything I got myself involved in all the time. So, I'm looking forward to Bob getting his shop back up and running, and learning Damascus with him is something I'm very interested in. Mm-hmm. No idea how he does it or anyone does it. It's just all foreign to me, and I learn hands-on. So I can read all day long how to do it, and until I do it, it's still like my head's spinning,
Yeah, that's 100%.
There's a lot of stuff I want to try and play with, and when I get time, I fool around with things, and sometimes it works, and most times it don't. But that's how you learn, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you learn more from your mistakes than you do your successes.
Absolutely, yeah. So.
You just mentioned that, made me think of it too. You asked something I want to get more involved in, and I think that's a community. When I started this, I didn't know that other people did this. I thought I was the only crazy one in the neighborhood. But after having a couple of hammer-ins and being to a few, the community we have is amazing, and one of the most supportive, loving communities I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, that's very, very true and very poignant, I think. The last podcast that we put out, I don't know, it might be old by now, but me and Nathan sat down and talked about what got me into forging, what got me here, and that's something that I can't take for granted is all of the connections that I've made in the past year. I've been forging for however 15 years or whatever, but it's been 2 or 3 times a year, and then I come here and everybody I meet is just as excited to meet me and talk to me as they would be to talk to you or to talk to Steve Swarzer, or which I keep telling people when they're like, "Oh, Bob, that sounds familiar." I'm like, "Oh, he's Michigan Steve." Everybody looks up and everybody looks up and talks about Steve, about all this great stuff, and I see you doing the same things up in Michigan and creating that community. And Logan is one of the boys from Steve, and I see that with anytime you're around, that you have your boys following you, and that community, I think, is so important to what we do, and getting involved in it has been more important to me than anything I've made, than anything Cole Ironworks does. Everything that we do goes back to the core of how do we support a community that is actually doing well for people.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me, the people that have been there for me in the last few months, and it's very humbling. You do your thing in your garage, you don't think anybody knows who you are, and it still blows my mind that anybody knows who I am, and I guess when I seen that I might know some people, that's why I felt the responsibility to come out and do this stuff,
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good segue of why you're on the podcast circuit. You've been doing a lot. I've listened to a couple, I always want to call it How It's Made. Work for It.
Yeah.
You did Work for It.
Yep.
So you've been out on a circuit. Talk to us about kind of what's going on, and we want to be respectful.
Yeah.
But there is an intention for you being here, and we want to give you the ability to share what you need to share.
Okay, so I guess to start out with, my son. His name's Bob also. He was in the Navy for 8.5 years. In the beginning of May, he came home, and everything seemed fine, but on May 25th, he took his own life. So I'm trying to raise awareness for veterans. It's a terrible pandemic of veteran suicide, and then also to try to reach families to understand they're not alone,
Yeah.
Because we had absolutely zero idea, any indication that he was struggling with anything.
Yeah. So before the podcast, you shared an overwhelming amount of emails that you had put into a collection. It was very, very overwhelming is the only word I can think of.
It was.
And I'm sure that was just a fraction of the communication you've had with people.
Yeah.
And the type of person that was represented in those emails, I think, is the type of person that we can all aspire to be. And it was constantly bringing, it was every other email was, I know for a matter of fact that I had a better time in life because of your son, and specific examples.
Very specific examples. And so he was a electronic technician in the nuclear Navy. He spent the last 2.5 years teaching Navy sailors how to run nuclear reactors, So from what I understand, that division is the top 1% of the top 1% in the military.
Yeah.
And from what everybody says, he was the best of them, And I'm trying to raise awareness that it's not just combat veterans that are struggling. It's also, anybody with that type of stress for that amount of time. And so that day, just to give it, when I say we had no indication, he was fine. I was getting ready for Blade Show. I was getting ready to go to my first Blade Show, and we talked in the afternoon a little bit, told him I appreciate him and I'm proud of him because he had a good job lined up and all that stuff, and later that night I go take a shower. Well, I step back. He went grocery shopping that afternoon, asked me if I need anything from the grocery store, and no, I'm all set, thank you though, and so later that night his sister left, go visit a friend that day, and he was texting with her and they were joking back and forth, and we're in the kitchen with my wife, myself and him, and we're laughing and joking and everybody's happy, and we decided we're going to go to bed, and an hour later he was gone.
Sure.
So it's just, you just never know.
Yeah. It's, like you said, you never know. And there are great communities that give you, they say, check for this warning sign or check for this warning sign. And you're right. They're not always there.
The easiest way I've been able to describe it is if I had to do it over 100 times and I had to bet against what happened or aliens landing on my front lawn, every time I'd bet on the aliens. Yeah. It was absolutely the farthest thing from my mind that was even a possibility in life. And that's where I come back to this community and how supportive they've been to help myself and my family get through this. They've made it... I can't even say thank you to enough people. Yeah. So that was the Thursday before Blade Show. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to have a table for the first time, and obviously that wasn't important to me at that point, But Rocco stepped up, Chad Kimmel, Eric, and Nico. They all stepped up to help run my table. Lucas from Grizzly Fort, everybody stepped up, ran my table for me. So I had my table there still just to, just seemed important at the time, I can't tell you how much I appreciate these guys for that.
Yeah, I think, going to Blade Show and seeing, it was less about you having a table and seeing how many people were there to stand for you. Yeah. Right? Being able to have a group of people that are willing to say, we can't do anything except this one thing, and they're still totally willing to do it, is very rare. And finding that in this community, I think is a great example of this community.
And that was just the start of the overwhelming support, from everybody, whether it's trying to doing fundraisers for our family or just reaching out and seeing if there's anything that we can do, or just checking on me, that people haven't forgot about me. That was back in May, and people are still checking on me all the time. So, yeah.
I think it brings to the forefront when you say it's unexpected. You can't really always check for it. It kind of reminds you of that. So people that are affected by it are going to be a little bit more I don't want to say aggressive, but maybe aggressive about checking in on their friends and checking in on their loved ones and saying, hey, I know you've just gone through this. How can I, whether it be sell your stuff at Blade Show or just come over and sit in the living room with you or whatever the case is. I think it reminds us how frail things are, and it brings us back to the important things.
And then you mentioned Jeff from Warriors Way and stuff. I was hoping to bring my son in this community. I think that he would have found a home whether he made knives or not, you know. So that's right away you want to do something, right? And that's when I decided I can get on podcasts and speak and try to help people. My daughter set up a GoFundMe. And Warriors Way is one of the charities that we want to help benefit with the GoFundMe, along with the Cat Cafe in Charleston, where he got his 2 cats that he loves. I had told him I don't want any more cats, but I'll take the cats if I can have you here, you know.
Yeah.
And then also Black Horse Forge is another veterans foraging organization. So then they have affiliate forages around the country. So if you want to try this stuff and you're a veteran, let us know. We'll try to get you connected with somebody that can make it happen. Yeah,
absolutely. That's something that's just recently as I've become aware of is how beneficial specifically metalwork has been to PTSD and survivors from overseas engagements and everything. And I don't come from a military background, so I might not say all the correct lingo and whatnot, but talking to Jeff and talking to Lucas from Grizzly, listening to a lot of these guys that know what they're talking about and are passionate about not only the metalworking community, but the veterans community. This is a very effective way.
Well, and I think that Steve from Black Horse Forge is also, they've done studies, brain scans with volunteers from the VA and stuff. So it's unbelievable how well it helps people and build. I think a lot of it too builds a community.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's especially when you're working on the same anvil with somebody,
right.
It's maybe not the same level of trust when, you know, you're overseas or in a high stress job like that, but you've got to learn to trust somebody. Right. So it's almost that same camaraderie, that might be missing out on the day-to-day life for a lot of people.
I think it also helps you focus on one thing at a time and drown out everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the ability to have, you know, a mission statement for 2 hours and saying nothing matters until I get to the end of this project.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Tyrell Knives made a knife set for you. And I watched that video today, and even watching that video after reading those emails was incredibly moving. The amount of detail that he put into it, and when you look at it, it's like, yeah, that's a really cool knife set. That's really pretty, but everything has a meaning and everything has a purpose.
And so Chad Kimmel and Paxton from 50/50 Forge, they made the billet for that. So, and then Tyrell did an amazing job on Tyrell Knifeworks. He did an amazing job on the video, and it was just so touching. And for people to take that amount of time, you know, and for us, for myself and my family, it just, that amount of time and effort, I'm very humbled by it and so thankful and grateful. It meant a lot to us.
Yeah. It's, once again, it goes back to that idea of what can I do? And in his situation, he can make a knife, and Paxton can obviously make Damascus. It's what he does for a living. And we can offer small parts of ourselves to be of service to somebody else.
Right.
And I've never really been engaged in a community that's willing to do that.
Well, and so it hit a nerve with Dennis. His son is an ET also in the Navy, you know, so it kind of hit a chord with him, and I really appreciate all the effort he put into that. That was very nice, very kind.
Yeah. So what kind of things are we expecting from you moving forward? Obviously, I don't think that this is going to be something that you're going to lose passion for. The metalworking community, supporting families of veterans, supporting veterans themselves. Do you have anything lined up or planned to be able to kind of take more action in the future?
I don't have anything specific just yet. It's definitely something that is always going to be in the forefront, whether it's doing podcasts, trying to raise awareness. I've talked with Warriors Way. I might do a Damascus class at some point or something like that.
Sure.
once we get moved in the new shop set up and running and stuff, I'll have more room. So hopefully maybe I can have veterans over or something. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to land in it, but it's going to be important to me.
Yeah.
I feel like my son Bob, his memory deserves that. He deserves that. It's not very often your son's your hero, and it's just I have to keep his memory alive.
Yeah.
So this is the GoFundMe campaign here. It is called GoFundMe Robert Adam Rankin. You can find that online.
I actually took that picture in Zion National Park with him when he transferred from San Diego to Charleston. We road tripped in his Challenger there back from San Diego to Michigan together down Route 66. So
it's a long trip in a Challenger.
we had so much. He had everything he owned packed in the back of that car. And
wow.
We had so much fun. We went to Zion and Petrified National Forest and stuff. And I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to take that trip together.
So that is the GoFundMe campaign there. This is Black Horse Forge. They're in Fredericksburg. Is that Virginia? VA?
Yes.
Virginia. And then Warriors Way at warriorswayforge.org. They're in Lima, Ohio. And then the support22project.org is the Project 22. So if you get a chance to go check those websites out, please do. Go donate.
And then for the knife set, Chad Kimmel's setting it up. You can buy stickers on my website that enters you in the chance to win those knives. So every sticker you buy gives you a chance. Well, you're buying a sticker, and it just so happens you get a chance to win knives.
Yeah, I think the sticker's the least important part there. Yeah, you get, and the knife is also a lesser important part there. It's the ability to do something that's going to end up for a good cause and supporting things that matter.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. As I collect myself, the saying that your son's your hero kind of got to me, and saying that you want to live on through his memory and support things that matter to him. What are some of the things I want to take a little bit of time? What are some of the things that Bob was really into that you would like to share to allow his memory to live on through any of our viewers as well?
Well, I think his cats, first of all, he adopted his cats at the Cat Cafe, and his social media is full of pictures with that. And I think just being a kind person, regardless of what you do or what you make, but just to be the type of person that he would want to be around, because it's always been one of my proudest things about being a parent is not just raising kids you're proud of. Everybody's proud of their kids.
Yeah.
Right. But both of my children, him and my daughter, raising kids that I like as a person, not just because they're my kids, but I would actually enjoy being around them regardless if they were my kids or not.
Yeah.
In
the emails that we read, there was specific stories too about different interactions that Bob had with kind of shady characters, we'll say. And one of them was he was on a tour on a ghost hunt or something, and somebody came up in the middle of the tour and was hitting on a young girl. And he followed the guy to his car to make sure that he left. He didn't follow him intimidatingly or, you know, he told him to leave, and then he made sure that he left. So even beyond being a good person, I think one of the things that reminded me of is our responsibility as people to make sure that those around us also have the ability to be a good person, to let as many people around us have that opportunity without, some random guy hitting on us or be put in shady situations. It seems like he was always sticking up for somebody who wasn't maybe able to do it for themselves.
Oh, he's definitely a protector, right? It's a lot of the philosophy I've had in my life, so I hope that some of that came from me. One of the larger influences I have is John Lovell, the warrior poet. I like a lot of what he has to say about his philosophy and family and being a protector, and I think that spilled over in him, and I that's my biggest regret in life, that I couldn't protect him,
Yeah. What are you said John Level is the guy's
John Level, the warrior poet.
The warrior poet. What are some of the things that people might know from him? Because the name sounds really familiar, but I can't really place anything.
Well, he's a gun tuber, and he has the philosophy of family and God, and being a protector of life and lover of life, and that's why a lot of us do the things that we do. Whether it's speak the truth or concealed carry or things like that.
Okay. In the moving forward, I'll give you time to talk individually about each of the organizations that you're currently working with. But in the moving forward, is there anything or any specific, I guess, event or charity or organization that you would really like to work with?
I want to work with anybody I think that could help me reach people to help people. So I'm just going to take opportunities I think that are worthwhile.
Okay.
And anybody that wants to talk and help spread awareness, I'm willing to work with, And I don't really have anybody specifically, no. I would like to try to find people outside the knife making community to talk to.
Sure.
And try to bring people into the knife making community that way. I do believe that it could help a lot of people, veterans or not veterans. It has affected me in my life to be a better man and a better husband and a better father. So I would like to help other people with that.
Yeah, absolutely. What I've found, I don't know our actual demographics, but I follow a lot of people on Instagram just because they'll follow us and we'll follow them back, and I have access to the Coal Ironworks Instagram. Our podcast reaches a lot of people who have nothing to do with blacksmithing or bladesmithing. A lot of it is people who are just trying to do small business. And so if anybody out there who is not part of the knife making community wants to have Bob on, it's Bob Rankin Custom Knives, right?
Yep.
On Instagram.
Yep.
Shoot him a message. Like you said, this is something that's so much bigger than knife making, than metalwork, than even bigger than a veterans organization. This is something that can spread across a lot of borders.
Well, it's so when something like this terrible happens to somebody in their lives or their family's lives, everybody wants to do something, right? And I didn't realize that I can actually do something. No matter how small it is, but to lean on this community and the people that know me to try to help even families that this has happened to, that they just don't know why and they're alone, just to let them know they're not alone. Because I would have never thought this was a thing that somebody can just be gone and you have absolutely no idea why.
Yeah. It's a pandemic in our society. And like you said, a lot of it is very isolating and makes you feel very alone. And unfortunately, it is more common than it should be.
Well, that's where the Project 22 came from. And then from my understanding, that number's way too low, that 22 veterans a day kill themselves, take their own lives. And that's just, how is that even a thing? How are we not helping these guys,
Yeah. How is that not the most important thing happening? Right. It's having the mission statement that I kind of feel coming from you has been more so of selflessness and taking any bit of the support that people have been able to give you and trying to figure out how to give it to other people. Is that something that you think of actively, or is that just kind of second nature, or do you even notice it? Because I've not heard you say a single thing about wanting to do something to better yourself or to better these other people directly in your lives. It's all about how you can reach out and impact somebody who's suffering.
Well, I really don't think about that a lot. It's when I was saying that some people, it happens to them, they want to do something, but they don't necessarily have the platform or the ability to. It felt more of a responsibility to my son my family and to other families out there that are hurting. You know, it's if I can help one person, then it was worthwhile. At the very beginning, I knew I wasn't going to hide from it. You know, as much as it hurts, you know, I have to try to do what I can to try to help others.
Yeah. That comment about responsibility and duty is very inspiring to me, just even in the moment of things that I've experienced and gone through. And it reminds me that I have the option of sitting inside of it and isolating myself or reaching out and making sure, you know, there will be a moment in the beginning when we need that support and we need that help and we need somebody to lean on. But then it's very important to offer the same help to somebody else and offer that same support and be the shoulder to lean on afterwards. So even though you're not thinking about it, it's something that definitely is noticed, especially so soon after. And it speaks to your quality and your integrity and the type of person you are. So in a quick, short way, I just want to be able to commend you on that because it is very inspiring and we need more people like you.
I really don't know what to say about that, but thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I never really think about that part of it, you know, just like I never thought about anybody listening to what I have to say, you know, or looking at my work but I am starting to see the impact that I've had in community I've helped build, and we have a bunch of great guys in it, and I just hope to bring more people into it and enjoy the people more.
Yeah, what was the Michigan rendezvous, the Great Lakes rendezvous that we were at?
Yeah.
We started talking and you said, I didn't realize people looked at my Instagram or something like that. I didn't think people cared about my Instagram. And it almost took I was like, what? Like people don't care what you have to say. Like I said, I'm putting you on, in my mind, you're right up there with Steve and with Ed Claypool and kind of these monsters and these giants. And for the Midwest, when you start getting into this culture, you hear about Bob. So people definitely care. and I hope that you learn that and that you embrace it. And the things that you are passionate about they matter. And so I hope that by embracing it, you get more comfortable supporting other people and doing the things that you feel like matter to you. And I hope it gains you confidence because I'll just go back to it. We need more people like you, and we need more people to respond to things the way that you do, with gentleness and with kindness and with selflessness, as opposed to victim mentality. I don't want to say victim mentality. That makes it sound bad, but as opposed to just falling into the negative and falling into the down and focusing on all the things that went wrong. Talking to you, I get very inspired from a tragic thing.
Well, if I feel like all that I focused on was the bad and the wrong of it, then it would be just disrespectful to him. And I have to honor his memory. I have to remember the man that he was. He was an amazing man.
Yeah.
Just a selfless, loving, his little sister adored him and he adored her. He's too special just to get caught in the negative.
Yeah. Reading some of those emails, he kind of struck me as like a Dennis the Menace.
He had a little bit of a...
he was rowdy, but it was always with good intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lost Andy a couple years ago to cancer, and we don't talk about the sick days, right?
Right.
We talk about, I make fun of him for being a nerd still, and we'll make a quick jig and the joke, oh, it'd be good enough for Andy. You know, we talk about the good times. So I kind of understand what you're saying when you say to honor his memory. You think about the good times, you talk about the good qualities, and you embrace those. There was a little bit of is ornery a word up in Michigan? I keep getting told places here and there that
I
they
might
don't
have
know
been
what
called
honor
ornery
means.
before.
Yeah, is there a little bit of an orneriness that you feel kind of coming back? You said you've been called it before. Do you feel like there? I don't know how to word this because he seemed like he was the kind of guy that would come in and he would give you a bunch of crap. and there was one person that talked about knocking books out of their hands, but he was right there to clean it up and then invite you out to dinner. Do you feel some of those kind of qualities come back where you get a
Every
little
day because
boyhood?
he gets it from his mother.
Okay.
Yeah, them two together were something else. I had they were a force, the two of them together. They were two peas in a pod. I had to hurt my ribs at one point, and I think that they made me break them because once I started laughing, they thought it was funny, and tears were coming down my face. I actually had to leave the room because I couldn't breathe. And everything was with a good heart.
Yeah.
Meant to be playful and to show you that he cares. I think that if he didn't pay any attention to you, it was a better indication that he didn't like you than if he tormented you.
Yeah.
Like one of those stories when he had the sailor racing the ET, the electrical mate, turning the valve, knowing that the ET's valve stem was bent and he was never going to beat him anyway, giving him crap about it,
Yeah.
So I could see him doing that. And them are the type of stories that I appreciate all of his friends and people that take time out of their lives that he has touched to send to us. Even his landlord from his last apartment sent us a letter.
That one kind of got to me because it seems so like it's his landlord, right? It's not somebody that he lived with. It's not a friend. It's not another a crewmate or anything like that. It was somebody who he had a business transaction with, was so moved by their interactions that they felt the need to reach out to you.
Yeah. And them stories, I've always known he is a good man. And we lost 8.5 years of being around him a lot because of the Navy. And we were so looking forward to getting to know him again as an adult, fully grown man. And even when I spoke with the employers that he had lined up, he had a job lined up, a good job. They were very excited to have him the best candidate they had ever interviewed, and so it's a little bit, don't know what to say, about that. Yeah. He is amazing, just an amazing kid. Just I couldn't be prouder. I've been always been so proud of both my kids. They're both amazing people.
Yeah. Well, I want to give you, like Evan said at the beginning of the recording, this is unlimited time. I've asked you enough questions, and I think we've had our time and our spotlight as Coal Ironworks. I want to give that to you now, and anything that you want to talk about, any of the charities that you work with, any of the GoFundMe that you have set up, just give you the floor to be able to share whatever you need to share.
Well, first of all, I just want to tell everybody out there that you're not alone. Somebody cares about you. Somebody loves you. Talk to them. Because there isn't anything, there are people out there's nothing that they wouldn't trade to have you here.
Yeah.
If I could trade spots with them, I would, but other than that, we're trying to pick charities that we can work with that are small and the money goes to the people that need it the most. It's just a small token to try to help out. We appreciate that, to be able to do that in his memory. So if you can and decide that you want to help out, we appreciate that. And as far as the specific charities, depending on where we end up, we might add more, we might add less, but it will be thoughtful and handpicked to work with these people.
Okay. Is the knife auction still going on, or is there a deadline to that?
I believe that's going to Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
I think that Chad said that we're going to draw the winner for that on Labor Day weekend.
Okay. We will have the links up for all of the people mentioned that have donated, all of the charities, the GoFundMe. We'll have that all in the description of the in the bio of the podcast.
And I do have to say thank you to Edward Knives and Brian Brown. They made a folding knife together,
okay.
And then Ed lottoed it off or whatever on his Facebook page, and that was totally unexpected. Rocco sent him a piece of my steel, and again, Ed traveled to Brian's shop, and they made that beautiful folding knife, and that I was floored. Again, I was speechless. So
yeah,
I want to make sure I got a chance to mention them. That I appreciate that more than you guys know.
in situations like these, I think it's good to mention them and to say thank you, but I think we could also sit for probably half an hour with all the people that have tried to help in a small way. And, I know that it's much appreciated.
It is.
Any little thing helps, even in a small way.
Even just the messages, people reaching out and just checking on me or sharing their stories. And I appreciate everybody involved. Thank you so much from myself and my family. It means a lot to us, and you've helped through this unbearable time.
Yeah.
More than you know.
All right. Do you have anything else that you want to share, or any? Are you doing any shows or conferences that you'll be demonstrating at, or that people can catch you?
We've been busy trying to figure out the new house and stuff, so we haven't had time to focus on that. But
okay.
I'll be around. I'll be back once we get things sorted. And I guess the easiest way to find me on that is just on my Instagram or something like that.
Okay. Well, I want to make an official invitation for you to come down as our guest to our Hammer In this year. I know you came last year. I want to make sure that we get you down here. We're going to have a few people.
I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
My anniversary's December 1st.
Oh, no. Okay.
And my beautiful supporting wife said, go ahead and go. We're going on 28 years of marriage, so we've been doing this a little while. So,
yeah.
I'm leaning towards it, and I'm going to do my best to get down here.
Okay. Well, I would love to have you as our guest.
I appreciate that very much.
Don't buy a ticket. Make sure you get with me. I'll give you all my information to contact me before you come down. But
okay.
We'd love to have you here. We'd love to have you have access to a couple of the guys that we know, and like you said, keep filling into that community and finding ways to be proactive about things.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Cool. Rocco, I know that we've gotten a little quiet on your side for a little bit. Do you have any final thoughts or?
Well, as far as these raffles and fundraisers go, if you can't monetarily help, share. Just share it with your friends. Ask your friends to share. Just get it spread out. And not everyone's got $20, and I understand that. So share it. Maybe someone you share it with just one person. You'll buy a ticket. All that adds up, and we spread the word. That's really.
I think that's a lot of
help any way you can, and that really is a good way to help. Is just keep spreading the word, keep sharing these posts, and
I think that's a little bit of the proactivism that I kind of mentioned. Was you have the support for the families that are suffering from it, but it also brings it to the forefront of people's minds that are dealing with thoughts that it reminds them there is somebody out there, like you said, that would trade the world to have you here. So just putting up a little bit of a post and saying, hey, this is going to a good cause. Check this out, might be that little bit of a reminder to somebody for a second to stop and slow down and think. So on both ends of the spectrum there. So I think we can wrap it up with that. I know this has been a little bit of a different one, guys. We didn't get into a lot of technical stuff, but I think this is something that's important. And as soon as I talked to Bob, and Bob said that he was kind of going around doing podcasts, I knew that I wanted to get Bob out here. So we're honored to have you out here, and look forward to a continued relationship and being able to help support you in any way that we can. So
I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Have a good one.